you. And Tom's going to put, thank you, Tom. We're in business. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. And also, I do feel very privileged because this is my second presentation. Just, did anyone go to my presentation yesterday? Okay, you're in a minority, so I'm sorry. I'm going to have to do this again. All right. So you're well. Feel free to sit this one out. Okay, if you weren't in my presentation yesterday, or you'd like to do it again, or of course, challenge by choice. It's optional. You don't have to do this. But if you'd like to stand up, I'll teach you everything I know about learning design in 1 minute. All right, which isn't much. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, yeah. All right. So back in the good old days when John Holly was still as abusive, well, like last century that was actually. Yeah, it makes you feel old, doesn't it? It makes us feel old. Back at AUT in 1999, we had one of the Blackboard 2, I think it was, and we did a lot of this. Okay, so with your right arm, yes, we're going to grab some content and we're going to throw it on the internet. Grab some content, throw it on the internet. 1, all together now. 2, got to be coordinated. 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. Sorry, aerobics. 3, 4. Very good, John. Well done. Good to see MIT. and I always thought you swam against the stream. All right. So what we used to do, we'd grab some content, throw it on the internet. It was just shovelware, wasn't it? All right. We were just chucking stuff up. We were just digitising stuff. We've got lecturers who digitise PDFs and put up video lectures and say, I'm doing e-learning. No, you're not. You're just digitising stuff. All right. Then in the noughties, we started to think a bit more, maybe there's a better way to do it. So we did this. So with your left arm, we're going to grab some content. We're going to do some learning design. We're going to apply some learning design. Then we're going to put it on the internet. All right, grab some content, learning design, internet. Grab content, learning design, internet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. These people came late on purpose to miss out on the exercise. All right, all right. That's from your dance moves from last night. I saw you on the floor. All right, you know what comes next? Both arms together. All right? So to the count of 6, here we go. 1, 100% success. 2, think about where you're going. 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, very slow. It's the last day of the conference. You're probably a little bit hungover. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. All right, sit down. Just a little bit of activation, and once again, people come in to miss out on the activity. So that's the only thing I can do. All right, good morning, and thanks for this opportunity to come and talk once again. My name is up there first as the presenter today, but in reality, this is Susan's baby. She did the lion's share of work on this, and is continuing to do it. It's one of her very keen research areas, and Jamie is in the audience there, and he's giving me moral support, and Grace is back. Susan and Grace, of course, you know, the heart of the team are back at Melbourne, keeping the wheels turning. Just a brief outline of what we're going to do, just a very brief introduction, because you all know what MOOCs are. Interestingly enough, a survey out of the States late last year, 33%, only 33% of the public still know what MOOCs are. 66% still don't know what a MOOC is. And even around the university, and Melbourne's been, in the MOOC space for 5 years now. We've got 20 MOOCs. We've had over 1 million learners enrol. We still run to staff, and they say, "What do you do?" I say, "Oh, I work on the MOOCs team." And they say, "MOOC, what's a MOOC?" So, it's not as out there as we think. So brief introduction, talk about some of the issues that we see this with graduate skills gap and where MOOCs might be able to assist. And talk about an example we did in partnership with the Bank of New York Mellon, and just a little bit of direction. So, of course, these and as with anything in learning, but especially electronic learning, but it doesn't have to necessarily be mediated electronically. MOOCs are short courses, 6 to 8, but even now we talk about mini MOOCs of maybe 2 to 4 weeks, and chunking it up even more. Our first courses were 8 to 12 weeks 5 years ago, and now we do nothing over 8 weeks, but preferably around the 4 to 6 week sweet spot. For us, in these courses, all our courses were 4-week courses. So generally free, that was, of course, the initial thing was the democratization of education, wasn't it? But, of course, then suddenly we realized, as with any technology project at any university, is we get money up front to design these wonderful learning activities, but then how do we make them sustainable year on, year on? And a lot of institutions don't think about sustainability, so we've got to think about that a little bit. But it's still nice to know that even though we do now charge a nominal rate for our courses, for those who wish to obtain certification, which has no credit, but just a nice little PDF they can print out and hang on their fridge or their wall or put in their CV. It's still available for students to audit the course and do the assessments for free. So it's really nice to know that it's optional. And even though our courses are generally around the $49 mark, which for us is very attainable. Of course, in some countries that's still a lot of money, but the nice thing is in partnership with Coursera, they offer scholarships. So all the student has to do is rock up and say, look, I'm from XYZ country, and there's no list of countries that get this, but they get a scholarship where they can get the certification for no cost. So that's a nice option as well. I think the big thing is, of course, because we can't control the assessment, we're really good at delivering material and learning activities. I don't like the word delivering content, because it's commodifying education, and I don't really think it's what we're about. I think we're about making meaningful learning experiences through well-designed learning activities. We're really good at the e-learning side of things, but we're not so good at the e-assessment. And I think it's because we're still framing e-assessment with an old paradigm of essay and multiple choice questions and quizzes. And I think we need to consider other alternate forms of assessment. It's about, there's knowledge out there, and students can access that knowledge very easy. And so we've had to rely on things. Interesting enough, in MOOCs, one thing that works reasonably well for us anyway is the peer marking. Because obviously it's impossible for us to grade 10,000 essays. But students, and once again, the nature of assessment is, it's not just about a hurdle or a bar to jump over to say, yes, you know X, yes, you know Y, yes, you know Z. Assessment should be seen and framed as a learning activity, a reflective learning activity. And so peer assessment we've found has been really good, and students, we get some grumbles saying, well, I really want to be marked by the professor. I don't want to be marked by my peers, because what do they know? Well, if you're writing an assessment and submitting an assessment, you're actually making a statement that you know something about that, so you have some level of knowledge. And it's about triangulation, isn't it? If you're being peer assessed by 2 or 3 people, as with anything, in a lecture, I remember Henry Duncan, head of the sports school when I was there at AUT, said, in your student feedback, you can be the best lecturer in the world and the worst lecturer in the world. But what you've got to look for are the common denominators and the trends that are going through there. So assessment simplified, and generally at the most at the moment, machine marked simple quizzes and peer assessments. Now, it's interesting to note the evolution of Coursera. As all our institutions are constantly evolving in this rapidly changing world we're living in. This is the photo of Daphne Kohler and Andrew Ning, the 2 Stanford University professors who formed Coursera. And their aim was to bring university education to the world. The concept of open online education wasn't created by them. MOOCs in various forms or other names have been around for a long time. Stephen Downes' work, iTunes U are other examples. But Coursera is one of the first to partner with leading global institutions, mostly from North America in the early days, to bring education to the world. In late 2012, the University of Melbourne announced it would be partnering with Coursera to deliver MOOCs to the world. University of Melbourne was the first Australian university to partner with Coursera. And this image is from the conversation in that time, of that era. I came on board late 2012 and was asked to help design and work on the first 7 courses, which we did in 2013. Susan came on early 2014, where we added another 4 courses, and we've now got a stable of around 20 courses. In the first year, of course, we were very lucky. 2013, there was a lot of press around MOOCs. They were very popular. It was the MOOC tsunami, and then, of course, things have dried up a little bit then. But I think things have also solidified a little bit, and a little bit more firmer ground we're on. And so we're now doing 20 courses, delivered multiple times a year. So those first 7 were only delivered once a year, so we only delivered 7 courses. But now we're delivering 20 courses, over 150 occurrences a year. We passed the 1 million learners enrolments early last year, and we're probably sitting around, we're definitely over 1.1 million, we're probably closer to 1.2 million enrolments at the moment. Of course, as you know with MOOCs, whenever you see an enrolment figure, 50% of the students don't even turn up on the first day, because they haven't got any skin in the game. They have, if you pay $3,000 to do a paper at university or a course at university, you want return on investment, so you turn up. or generally try to turn up. Whereas if you haven't got a financial investment, and life gets in the way, and that's the same challenges we have with our face-to-face students as well. So we're there. There's a lot been written about the graduate skills gap, not only in Australia but around the world. New graduates are leaving university without the skills required for the modern workplace. A reported mismatch exists between what employers expect from new graduates. There are some headlines, these are some of the headlines that are appeared in popular press, and it's an issue that's been discussed by senior university executives and curriculum developers at the University of Melbourne. Some of those soft skills include teamwork, authenticity, context, real-world exposure, in-house experience. And we're hoping to work with that, and I know other institutions are as well. Universities are very good. The three big pillars: teaching, research, and community involvement. Well, we've got research down because that's where a lot of our academics are promoted on, and also that's where they're interested. The subject matter experts who are really interested in that subject, so they do a lot of research in it. Teaching, I think we do a reasonably good job. Variable, of course. Community involvement. A lot of academics, when I ask them, I say, "How are you involved in the community?" They say, "Oh, well, through my research outputs and my community involvement. My contribution to the world's body of knowledge, or through my teaching, I'm producing graduates." And I'm saying, well, isn't there something else? Isn't there something else you can do with community involvement? And I think these graduate skills courses are interesting, and maybe another way that we can get into that. The other thing is we know this, and University of Melbourne, like any institution, is a bureaucracy that is trying to turn the Titanic, isn't it? It's a slow-moving thing. And if you're going to get a new course to cover graduate skills, you've got to go through exam board, advisory board, board of studies. I get bored of board meetings. There's just so many out there, and so MOOCs allow us to experiment and be nimble and fleet of foot. One of my favourite papers, which was actually brought to my attention by the previous president of EDUCAUSE, Diana Opplinger, was from the Harvard Business Review about resilience, and it was a real life-changing moment for me, because it just kind of encapsulated that we need to be more resilient, and not just in education, but we need to follow businesses' resilience model. So, MOOCs for professional development. Insights from our students. So while MOOCs were initially developed to provide access to higher education for all, especially at a time when higher education is becoming more experienced, an age-old problem in North America, but of growing concern in Australia as well, and New Zealand, we found there was an increasingly beginning to serve other purposes as well. What we found, although not for credit, students felt the certification they received at the end held a lot of value for them, even if it was just validation and maybe confidence building. It was really through analysing our forum discussions, we did a lot of discourse analysis, that over time we found that some students, MOOCs were being increasingly used for professional development tools. Students were either using Coursera certificates when applying for jobs, or increasingly for those with jobs, as a way of showing their employers that their interest to gain new skills and knowledge. The course certificates too held great value. We found in certain geographic locations, Indonesia and Southeast Asia for example, the certificates were held in quite high regard by students and employers. Later on we also began to see MOOCs used to support workplace teaching, workplace learning, so that learning and development coordinators in workplaces complemented existing workplace training. In particular cases, our teaching 21st century skills, which was for school teachers, MOOCs were being used by teachers across Victoria to upskill, and were actually recognised by that. And so increasing power to this so-called non-credit qualification. We also noticed, quite by accident, MOOCs were being increasingly used for informal professional development within our own context. So for example, in our work as learning designers, because of the open nature of MOOCs, for the first time ever, we had a window into other people's learning design. We could go into someone else's class and have a look at and see how they did things, which was really exciting, and part of the openness and sharing that we should all be involved in. Was also, we could be exposed to courses from other parts of the world and from other institutions with different budgets. Through this, and quite informally, we began to learn more about video, about peer assessment techniques. We learned a lot about rubric design, for example, about innovative ways to engage with students. And one thing we did was video mailbags every week. At a short Fridays it normally was, they'd rock up at the Jamie's studio with 2 or 3 questions, top questions from the students, that the teaching assistant triaged to the lecturer, and the lecturer would address those in a little 10-minute video. And the students really liked that. It was definitely a lot more personal experience. They felt that connection. We experimented with online synchronous sessions by running webinars using Google Hangouts, all of which benefited other online initiatives within the university. You know, we're learning a lot of lessons from MOOCs, but it took us a couple of years for it to filter down to the face-to-face students and the blended courses we run at Melbourne. And we're still not doing it great, but we are doing it, and I think we're going to do it better. It's a matter of getting there. And of course, our library staff learn a lot about copyright and privacy, especially as they related to online media, and began to advise other university colleagues around Australia. So, the increase in demand for corporate MOOCs, or MOOCs directly related to workplaces, hadn't gone unnoticed by others, as articles began to appear on educational websites and blogs, mapping the rise of corporate MOOCs. By this point in time, those responsible for delivering workplace training were beginning to take notice of MOOCs too, and were using them either in conjunction with existing workplace training or suggesting them for staff as a relatively inexpensive solution for upskilling. The flexible nature of MOOCs, the anytime, anywhere concept, was certainly appealing to organisations interested in having staff engage with professional development without taking too much time away from work, as would previously been the case when attending professional development training face-to-face. This photo I took at the Coursera conference. Susan and Grace were very lucky to be able to attend in Boulder, Colorado, just a couple of 3 or 4 weeks ago. And these are some of the partners that are working with Coursera now. And of course, these are only the latest ones. And these are not small fish. Okay, these are big companies. So, you know, I think there's a bit of a moment there for us to consider who we can partner with. So, around this time, we noticed the increase in students using courses for professional development. We noticed other things. Coursera, courses that related to business or anything deemed that was transferable to a workplace setting had higher enrolment numbers and was more interest in the courses overall. Other courses in the catalogue, the French Revolution, while still popular, did not seem to have the same level of interest as existed in the early day of MOOCs, where people would do everything. And that's part of the dilution. You know, there's just so many institutions delivering courses, there's so many more courses out there. It was also noticed by the end of 2015, there was an interest in professional development in this global, in the MOOCs. Coursera invented this, brought up the Global Skills Initiative. This announcement gained a lot of coverage in mainstream media, helped along by Coursera's link with multinationals, Microsoft, UBS, and BNY Mellon. Now, it was interesting because when we went into MOOCs, we weren't the first Australian university to do MOOCs. We were the first with Coursera. But even then, when we went to Coursera, even though it was the early days, there were other institutions that were already doing MOOCs. So we did have some idea of where to go and what to do. But when we designed a specialisation of four-week courses and a capstone, we were one of the first to do that. So it was a really interesting experience. BNY Mellon, if you don't know, you know, where have you been? You know, Bank of New York Mellon, it's the largest custodian bank in the world. Assets of more than $30.5 trillion. Over 50,000 staff in 35 different countries, Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and the Americas. Truly a global powerhouse, a massive company we were absolutely delighted to be given the opportunity to collaborate with on this project, and more importantly, to give our students the opportunity to engage with such a well-respected organisation in this way. Okay, this is not a real photo. This is photoshopped. Okay, do not think this is a real photo. I asked our Photoshop guys, our graphic designers, to put this in because you may have heard of some of the challenges that Trump universities had recently. Interestingly enough, we may laugh, but I found this blog post by Mike Caulfield in his Hapgood blog, where he actually pointed out that the learning activities in Trump University, you know, are really good, reasonably high quality. You know, okay, maybe what they were doing with it, not so good. And so we've got this challenge, isn't it, is there's increasingly a number of private providers. Universities, of course, well, government-approved universities, and the one thing we've got is that rubber seal to bestow degrees. And it's, you know, one of the last kind of bastions of things we've got, whereas anybody could set themselves up as a university. And I put this up because Bank of New York, they talk about BNY University. BNY University, Bank of New York University. And of course, it's really just their internal training. So it's not a university and doesn't bestow degrees, but it's their internal training. So you know, they had a teaching team that we had to work with. So the new initiative had benefits for both companies, Coursera and the Bank of New York. Coursera really acted like a matchmaker. And it wasn't a given that we got it. We had to audition to get this contract with Bank of New York. So we competed with a number of universities from around the world, but primarily the US. So our business school had to put together a massive proposal, and then it was submitted, and then the Bank of New York, Mellon, and Coursera made the decision to go with the University of Melbourne. So we were very lucky to do that. The initiatives from BNY's perspective, they had opportunities to get access to high-performing students that may potentially become employees for the company, so a pipeline in there. And this has proved true. They didn't know whether it would happen, but it has happened. And so for companies, this partnership created a recruitment opportunity for them. One of the other benefits the company had was that already existing employees could get access to the courses, and so the material developed could be repurposed within the company to upskill or provide training for existing or new staff. Given the global nature of MOOCs, for a lot of companies, this partnership was an opportunity to market their brand into new global markets and also offered in several languages. For the university, the benefits were plenty. The industry partnership provided students with opportunities to connect with industry experts. It allowed students to get the inside look of where they might potentially be working. This type of opportunity was really offered previously and has only been offered to a select few intern opportunities. For the university, the relationship allowed us to get a much clearer understanding of what these companies required from potential graduates. So it was an advisory board without being an advisory board. Perhaps the greatest benefit was the opportunity for students to use real cases, authentic learning or company data, and being asked to ask senior industry professionals direct questions. We had Sean and Paul as the main presenters for the course, but we also had cameos by very high-profile people within the course. 4 4-week courses and a 4-week capstone. The specialisation just recently was given an Excellence in Engagement Teaching Award, which was Sean and Paul and Deb, and also my team, Jamie there, Deb Jones from the Director of Learning Environments, and Grace, and you can see some of the BNY stuff in the background there. So it's been recognised internally. Just 2 quotes from Sean, and I'll just let you read those. Read the first one. And then the second one really resonates for me, because it's about students. I've talked about the 3 key players, Coursera, Bank of New York Mellon, University of Melbourne, but we never forget the students. And the student voice for us at Melbourne is very important, even though it's sometimes hard to hear. For the learners, these were 3 things that we identified they got out of the course, the school sets. But once again, I'll just let you read 2 quotes from student voice. Nice to know that our simulated Skype call in the capstone, which was an idea of Sean and Paul's, which Jamie turned it into the vision into a reality. It was just loved by the students. They really liked that. Hey, here's your brief at the start of the week. It's only a 3-minute video. You've got to do this, this, and this, followed up by background material, and they had to work on that assignment over the week. It was just great. These sorts of statements are the ones we live for. Where we know education is making a real difference in the world. Images, this is BNY's headquarters in Wall Street, and I just can't help but salivate when I see 3 screens in the first row, and then some guy's got 4 screens in the back row there. So, we've got to catch up. This was just the ultimate in authenticity. Sean and Paul, wanted everything to be authentic. They used company reports that were online from Kellogg's. None of the data was made up. Everything was accessible on the internet and freely available, and students felt they were doing real stuff, and it was just great. This is Mellow. Every course had 2 or 3 BNY employees who came in for guest spots talking about what was being covered that week and how they used it in the real world, and also examples with their customers. And it was just excellent because we had a great range of staff there. But there were some challenges, which we, of course, see as an opportunity to learn. BNY, I mean, University of Melbourne, we're pretty protective of our brand as well, but BNY were, well, obviously, highly protective of their brand. So it was building that trust and how we were going to use things. I mentioned BNY University. We had a staff member in England, we had a staff member in New York, and a staff member in Washington, as well as people in Coursera on the west coast of America and us. So we had weekly conference calls, but of course it had to be 6 o'clock in the morning in Melbourne so that it would be afternoon in LA, and then a little bit later in New York, and then the middle of the night in England. But we just did that. We just did it, and it worked really well. But it's hard pulling teams around. All very well, the technology can do it, but it had its challenges. As I mentioned, we didn't have a lot to draw on. Copyright laws, we don't have fair use in Australia yet, even though it might be coming in the next year or two. So we had to be aware that we were copyright compliant with our own country, even though a lot of the Americans said, "Oh no, you can use that under fair use." Well, I'm sorry, we can't. The time differences, the volume. We normally turn out a good. We would like to have 6 to 8 months to do a good MOOC. We did the 4x4 courses and the specializations in 8 months. So we just beavered away. We turned the handle very fast, and I'm very conscious that the faster we turn the handle, we turn into a cookie cutter, which I don't like, and also quality can go down. So we had a big thing on QA, but we had support there, which was great. So last slide. What's next? We'd like to do more specializations, but it's finding the partner. And I don't think we can rely on organisations like Coursera to broker that partnership with us. So increasingly, we're going to try to reach out to organisations that have existing relationships within the university. And we're conscious we have to be aware of that. But we're hoping to do that locally and nationally, and hopefully internationally. Of course, nano degrees, micro-credentialing seems to be just a natural step to that skills gap. And one thing we are doing is linking MOOCs to accredited courses at Melbourne, either to a postgraduate level, and using PD for our staff. So just look, we've got a curation collection of articles around MOOCs that you might find a useful resource. You can email me if you'd like a copy of the slides as a PDF. I normally put on a slide share, but Susan wants to actually put more of the academic references in there, which she's working on right now. So hopefully that'll go up soon, but there's stuff there. It's interesting that Pari had a quote from Peter Drucker. And this is our finance building, our business building, and all around it these quotes, not just Peter Drucker's quotes, but business quotes that are just put up on the glass around the business school. And this is Grace and one of our learning designers who just left, Chrissy. We staged some shots, but yeah, that's what we did. So more than happy to discuss it, and maybe have a couple of questions if we've got time. Hope that was useful. Illuminating. Stunned into silence. Third day conference, stunning. Yeah. Yep, definitely. Hey, look, okay, why did Melbourne get into MOOCs? A number of reasons. But the number one reason the Vice Chancellor has always said was to provide a taste of a Melbourne education to the world for free. And one of the best stories the Vice Chancellor tells, that Susan told me to tell you, he was in New York just before Christmas, 2 Christmases ago. He needed a shirt for a meeting the next day before he flew back to Australia. Went out to a menswear store, got a shirt, went to pay for it, handed the credit card over. The African-American man serving him said, "Oh, a doctor." "I'm not a medical doctor, I'm Vice Chancellor of the university." He says, "What university?" University of Melbourne. "I'm doing a course on macroeconomics there." He'd gone to community college in America, but he said the course on macroeconomics from Melbourne helped him pass his community college. Now, Vice Chancellor said, "Great, we're able to offer a helping hand for free to anyone in the world." And but secondly, he said, University of Melbourne's name is out there. 1 million people have enrolled in the University of Melbourne course. Okay, 500,000 people turned up. But 1 million people know where the University of Melbourne is. Chrissy, here, as an international political student, did her Masters at Melbourne. She found out about that Masters because her roommate in America was doing a course at Melbourne online, and then she came to Melbourne, did her Masters in political science, and then joined our MOOC team. So, yeah, there's been lots of serendipitous things. But you're right, I mean, it is, but we do have to market ourselves too.
I get the second Stephen Downs and George Stevens, and then suddenly woke up one day, and this is the kind of, I would call it online marketing.
Sure. It was hijacked with have a stupid collection of links around open educational resources as well. The world's maybe not ready for that yet. Quite often it's about timing, isn't it? And also MOOCs are evolving.